The days after the feast were quiet in Ashrani, and Hamid's life began to change. He no longer felt the intense jealousy and bitterness that had once consumed him. The image of Amir and Layla's simple yet content life stayed with him, and in the quiet of his own home, he often found himself thinking about it. There were no loud arguments between him and Mariam anymore. The house, once filled with tension, now felt calmer, and the once constant bickering slowly faded away. Mariam, too, noticed the change in Hamid. Though she had always been a kind woman, she had often felt like she wasn't good enough for her husband. But now, he seemed to listen to her more, and instead of criticizing her, he was asking for her thoughts and opinions. For the first time in years, she felt valued. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the streets of Ashrani grew quiet, Hamid sat across from Mariam at their dinner table. They had been talking for hours about small things, how the crops had been doing, what the weather had been like, and even some of the town gossip. It felt peaceful. Hamid put down his glass of wine and smiled at Mariam. "You know, I've been thinking a lot about what happened with Amir and Layla," he said, his voice softer than it had ever been. "I didn't see it at first, but now I understand something." Mariam looked at him, her curiosity piqued. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice gentle. Hamid sighed deeply. "I've spent my life chasing after things that didn't truly matter. Wealth, power, luxury. I thought they were everything. But after that meal at Amir's house, I realized that what matters most in life isn't those things. It's love. It's respect. It's kindness." Mariam smiled, her heart swelling with warmth. She reached across the table and took his hand. "I'm so glad to hear you say that, Hamid. We've always had love in our hearts, even if we didn't know how to show it." Hamid squeezed her hand gently. "I want to change, Mariam. I want us to build a life that's full of warmth, like Amir and Layla's. I don't want to keep chasing after things that don't bring happiness." Mariam's eyes sparkled with joy. "Then let's do it together," she said. "Let's build a life full of love." From that day on, Hamid focused on making his home a place of peace and joy. He spent more time with Mariam, talking to her about everything and anything, no longer quick to anger or frustration. He began to let go of his obsession with wealth and began to appreciate the simple joys in life. He even invited Amir and Layla over for dinner, hoping to show them that he had learned his lesson. The dinner invitation came unexpectedly one evening. Amir had just finished closing his spice shop when a messenger came running to him with an invitation from Hamid. "Hamid invites you and Layla to dine with him and Mariam at their house tomorrow evening," the messenger said, handing over a small, folded note. Amir raised an eyebrow, surprised by the sudden change in Hamid's behavior. He had never expected such a gesture, considering the tension between them just days ago. "Well, that's strange," Amir muttered, thinking for a moment. "But perhaps it's a sign that things have changed." Layla, standing beside him, gave a small nod. Maybe this is Hamid's way of showing he's learned something. We should go and see. The next evening, Amir and Layla arrived at Hamid's grand house, the one that had always felt cold and unwelcoming to them. This time, however, there was a different energy in the air. The doors were open wide, and the smell of fresh food wafted from within. Mariam greeted them warmly at the door. "Welcome, Amir, Layla. We're so glad you could come. Please, come in." Her smile was sincere, and Amir could see the change in her. She seemed more relaxed, more at peace with herself. Inside, Hamid was waiting with a pleasant expression on his face. "Amir, Layla, thank you for coming. I've been thinking a lot lately, and I wanted to show you that I've learned something important. I've been wrong about many things, but now I understand." Amir looked at him curiously. "What do you mean, Hamid?" Hamid gestured for them to sit at the large dining table. "Let's eat first, and I will tell you." The meal was simple yet hearty. There was fresh bread, a roasted lamb, vegetables, and fragrant rice. The food was good, but it was the warmth and simplicity of the meal that made it so special. There were no extravagant dishes or elaborate displays, just the kind of meal that came from the heart. As they ate, Hamid began to speak. "I used to think that wealth was everything, that having more and more would make me happy. But I've learned that it's not true. I've learned that what matters is how we treat each other, the love we share, and the peace we create in our homes." Layla smiled gently, her eyes full of understanding. "I'm glad to hear you say that, Hamid. We all have to learn these lessons in our own time." Amir nodded, agreeing. "It's never too late to change, Hamid. What matters is that you've taken the first step." Hamid looked down at his plate for a moment, then met Amir's gaze. "I was wrong to try to take something from you that wasn't mine. I see now that true wisdom isn't about knowledge alone. It's about living with love and kindness. You and Layla have something I could never have bought with all my wealth." There was a long silence before Layla spoke again. "We don't have anything special that you don't have, Hamid. We just appreciate what we have, and we take care of each other." Mariam added, "It's about finding joy in the little things, the things that matter most. I'm so happy to see that Hamid is realizing that. The evening passed in warm conversation. For the first time, Hamid truly felt at peace with himself and his life. He knew that he had a long way to go, but this dinner was the beginning of a new chapter for him. In the months that followed, Hamid and Amir became friends. Though their lives were different in many ways, they now respected each other. Hamid, with his wealth, and Amir, with his wisdom, began to share ideas and learn from one another. The rivalry that had once existed between them was gone, replaced by a mutual understanding and friendship. Hamid's business flourished, not because of greed, but because of the care he now put into his work. He treated his customers with kindness, and they trusted him, not because of his money, but because of his honesty and respect for them. He also spent more time with Miriam, building a life together based on love and companionship. Amir and Layla, of course, continued their simple, joyful life. Their spice shop became even more popular, not just because of the quality of their goods, but because of the warmth and honesty they offered. People came not just to buy spices, but to feel the peace that Amir and Layla radiated. One day, as Amir and Layla walked by the river, hand in hand, Amir turned to her and smiled. "You know, I never thought I would learn so much from Hamid." Layla smiled back, her eyes sparkling with wisdom. "Everyone has their own path to walk, Amir. It just takes a little time for some of us to find the right way." Amir laughed softly. "I'm glad Hamid found his." And so, the story of the honest merchant and the greedy neighbor came to an end. But the lesson it taught lived on in Ashrani. It was a reminder to everyone that true wealth was not in gold or property, but in the love we shared and the kindness we offered to others. The end.